searching, your love was never far. You made a way to get to me. You were the whisper leading me to your heart. Forever I belong to you. Now I can see it. I got you. Come on, sing it out. Love won't let me down. Hey. And I know it's true. Yeah, I know that your love is all around. I believe in you, holding on to you, holding on. I know you will never. I want all of you. You never change. Your love won't let me down. Come on, love won't let me. Love won't let me. Come on, everybody, off your feet. Love won't let me. Love won't let me. Right when I need you, you listen as I pray. You leave the 99 for me. You paint the sky with promises of your grace. So I'll find a way to you. Now I can see it. I got you for me. Come on, you won't let go. Love won't let me down. Hey, and I know it's true. Yeah, I know that your love is all around. I believe in you, holding on to you. Come on, holding on to you. I know you will never. I want all of you. You never change. Your love won't let me down. Come on, everybody, jump. Love won't let me. Love won't let me. Love won't let me. Holding on, and I know you will never fail. I want all of you. You never change. Your love won't let me down. Love won't let me. Woo! Come on, give him some praise in this place. Come on, he's good. Come on, he'll never let us down. All right, Victory Youth, thank you guys so much for worshiping with us. You guys can give your neighbor an air high five real quick, and then you guys can be seated. What's up, what's up, what's up? How you guys doing tonight? Man, it's good to be with you guys. I've been looking every single week. I look forward and forward and forward more to the next week. Like, I don't know if you guys can feel this, but there's like some spiritual momentum like happening in this space. If you're watching us online, I hope that's the same for your bedroom. But for us in this place, there is momentum. I'm gonna say that right now. It's been fun. Hey, I want to kind of speak to something before we kind of get rolling into tonight. A few weeks ago, you heard us talk about the rebrand that we're going through, and we are fully
99% unbranded, okay? We kind of moved away from the names, the city, which was used to be our middle school ministry, the capital, which was our high school ministry, and we're kind of moving towards Victory Youth and just being a part of Victory Church, that we are the youth culture of an amazing church that is doing amazing things for the kingdom of God, and we are honored to be a part of that. And so, in the meantime, there's gonna be awkward moments, okay? And today was one of those awkward moments, and it was my bad. It was totally my fault. One, I deleted the registration link for tonight, so if you were not crazy, there was no link because I deleted it. But two, our current social handles are mad complicated, okay? And we're just gonna face it head on. So here's what I need you guys to do. I know Kyle already said this during the announcements, but if you wouldn't mind pulling out your phones just to make me feel better, like you can pretend, go ahead and turn that brightness up so I can see that face glow. I know you're still on your phones during service. Thank you. I see that phone. I see that phone. Thank you, thank you, thank you. If you go to Instagram and search capital VHM, the old tag, the hashtag will come up, and one of the more recent posts will have a new Victory Youth logo on it. Click that post, follow that account if you're not already, and go ahead and hit those notifications so that way, in the meantime, until we have a fully new brand that we're ready to release, go ahead and hit that notification so that it comes straight to your phone. Again, that's the best way we can stay in touch with you guys in between Wednesdays. So do us a favor, do that. Same thing for YouTube. If you go on YouTube, you search Capital VHM, it's going to pull up an account with a new logo that it will either say Victory Youth Hamilton Mill, or it'll still say Capital VHM. It kept going back and forth all day today. But go ahead and do the same thing. Subscribe, smash that subscribe button, that notification bell, because that's what you do. I don't know why YouTube has to smash it. You gotta smash that notification bell so you get updates when we're releasing new stuff on YouTube as well. So, cool? Did you do it? Did you do it? I see people hitting buttons. So even if you're just texting your friend, thank you for making me feel better about that announcement, all right? Okay, moving on. We're on week 2 of our Unleash series. The adults are going through the same thing on the weekend, calling it Emancipating Greatness. We talked about this concept that you were made for something great. Do you guys believe that? Because I spent a whole lot of time last time convincing you guys that you were made for something great, that you are what? Do you guys remember what you are? Imago Dei, the image of God. You now know an entire phrase in Latin. So next time you're doing Confessio Mess, you can be like, I'm multilingual, like my man Trey was saying. You can say, I know Latin. And they'll say, prove it, I am Imago Dei. I'm the image of God. Say something. So, all right, we're moving on to week 2. Today, I'm really excited about this. So in case you didn't know, this isn't just a prop. There's 2 chairs. So that means there's going to be someone else joining me in a minute, and I'm super stoked for that. So here's the concept for today. We're doing a topic called Kings and Priests. This is a big-time topic in Scripture, especially when it comes to releasing, unleashing, setting free, emancipating greatness. And to fully explain this concept would be an entire sermon series in and of itself. It's a deep topic. It's a profound topic. It's an important topic. So I'm going to do my best to reduce this to a few statements. Here's what I would say. Jesus became the ultimate high priest. You understand, the entire first half of the Bible, the Old Testament, was looking forward to Jesus. Jesus shows up on the scene, fulfills the Old Testament, everything that it prophesied about. And one of those things that he would be a priest, and he would be a king, that he would come from a royal line, and he would be a priest, which, again, to sum it up without full explanation, that was impossible in that time. You couldn't be both. You couldn't be a priest and be a king because it was bloodline stuff. So you had to follow your lineage. So there's no way you could be both of those things because bloodlines and heritage wouldn't allow for it. So Jesus did the impossible and became that. And now we are called a royal priesthood. You guys might have heard that term. That means we are both royalty and priestly. So we get the inheritance into this concept that we are both royalty and priestly. And that's that. So there's a piece of us, as you understand, you're the Imago Dei. You're also royalty. You're also priestly. And so let me kind of sum it up like this. they got a bad rap. That's not what it meant 2,000 years ago, right? Priest just means this, that you represent God. You represent God on behalf of people. That you intercede. You hear from people, you go to God. You hear from God, you go back to the people, and you're representing the people, and you're a mediator between God and man. The kings ruled over. They had authority over people. They ruled countries, right? You understand what a king is, right? So to be a royal priesthood meant not only are you in authority as a Christian, you're in authority. Any environment you're in authority, and you have the ability to represent God and to hear from God and to speak to the people on behalf of God, vice versa. And a lot of people abuse that, but don't mistake it. It's still a promise for us that we have that. So again, let me make it even simpler, okay? To put it like this. Priests work at the church. Priests work inside the church so that they can help the world around them. Kings work in the world so that they can build up the church. That they go hand in hand, right? Does that make sense? So here's what I'm saying with this. Some of you are called into the priestly side of things, like practically. Some of you are called to be pastors, youth pastors, kids pastors, missionaries, worship leaders. We need people to be called to the local church, to work from inside the church so that we can build up the community around us. But most of you are called to the kingship side of things, that you're going to be called to lead in the marketplace so that you can build the church, okay? So it'd be kind of awkward if, as the priest side of things, I'm a pastor, to tell you how to be kings. So I wanted to bring up a business person to kind of speak to what most of you will be doing, and that's leading in the marketplace as you represent God. But again, bottom line is you're made for something great, and we are both kingly and priestly as sons and daughters of the King. So in order to do that, I'm going to bring up my friend Mark Hirschman. Did you see how smooth that was? So come on up. I'm going to get this ready. We're going to have a seat. This is going to be fun, all right? It's on. You're good to go.
Hi.
Yes. All right, first things first, where are you from? Because there's rumors and there's liars in the house of God tonight.
Well, in the great University of Augusta, they don't teach you the difference between Jersey and Brooklyn. So I'm sorry, Trey. So I am from Brooklyn. Brooklyn's in the house right now.
Brooklyn in the house. Anyone else? Anyone else from Brooklyn? I see you. Look at, Brooklyn is in the house. Okay. All right, anyone else like you wish you were from Brooklyn? Like, come on now. I just want to be able to say Brooklyn in the house and mean it.
Yes. Well, yeah, I'm like from Brooklyn. Well, Brooklyn's nice now. Brooklyn's where people want to be. I was there when people didn't want to be there.
Right.
You know, and it was like, don't be out past 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
You know?
We get that. We get that.
Yeah,
I get that. I know my 90s rap. All right, here's what I want to do. So me and Mark have been friends for a long time, and I obviously know his journey. It's an incredible story. But I want to kind of go piece by piece and unpack the story, because I think there's some things that's going to bless you guys from his story that you can apply both now as you're learning greatness and for the rest of your life as you continue to pursue the emancipation, the releasing, the unleashing of your greatness. So let's start where all stories start. Let's start at the beginning. So let's talk about your childhood. Like, how did you come up in Brooklyn, not Jersey? How did you grow up in Brooklyn? Kind of take us through your childhood.
So I grew up in Brooklyn, in the hood, in Borinquen Plaza, like the hood. And I looked around, and for those of you who don't know, my parents had me at 14, right? So it's literally like kids trying to raise kids, which was super hard. So I looked around, I saw my cousins getting locked up. I saw my friends at school one day and just gone the next. And I was like, I gotta get out, full transparency. So I went and I hustled. I worked in, well, actually, my first job was at a place, a poultry location where I had to kill chickens to give to people to eat. Okay? Talk about hustling.
This is a real thing.
Real
A chicken killer. Professional chicken killer.
And no, I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry. But who doesn't love chicken?
Listen, if you eating a chicken, someone killed it. Okay.
Chick-fil-A.
Now you know.
So just like kind of growing up there, I was like, I knew I had to get out. So I literally worked since 11, nonstop, and still today, from 11 till now. So growing up in that environment, I knew I had to do everything humanly possible to get out, and so that was literally my focus from a super young age, getting into high school. So Matt and I talked about it. I was pretty much in private school all my life in some form or fashion, which was pretty cool. So, it was, I got out of high school I was a barista at Starbucks. Shout out to Starbucks. I can't believe somebody blocked Starbucks.
Blocked Starbucks. Blocked it.
How?
And followed the gas station. But
Maybe he
Who,
just
was
got a
that Vinny?
car? I don't know.
Well, hey, I will say this. Like, that's a good choice. QT's a good choice. I would have blocked Duncan in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
Thank
Yeah,
you. Let's
facts.
just get it right. Come on
Facts.
now.
Facts.
Okay. Anyway, so all right. So you're in high school. When you're in their shoes, like you're in high school, what did you think you'd be doing?
I thought I was going to be a corporate attorney.
Okay.
Now, that was like my politically correct answer. What I really wanted to be was the point guard for the New York Knicks.
You're coming straight for Starks.
Believe it or not, Charlie Ward. Charlie
Dang.
Ward. And then, well, really, Marbury was like right after. Starbury, he was legit. Like, he is what point guards are now.
So you want to be in like a long lineage of point guards who can't win championships. Shout out to the 90s Bulls. All right.
Yeah, what have they done since?
Hey, we're talking about your childhood, okay?
That's
Let's
right.
not
Sorry,
get distracted.
Sorry. Yeah, so I
Talking
thought I was
about
going
90s
to be...
point guards. So you didn't play for the Knicks.
No.
You're not an attorney.
No. Yeah, it didn't really go to plan.
I love it. Okay,
I
so
played against 1D1 guy, and it was like not even fun.
yeah,
Like pulling up from the logo, just
which is
so bad.
which is funny though. So, but you could have pursued sports. You play you're a really talented baseball player.
Yeah, I was
had
really,
offers,
really good.
scholarships. That could have been a thing.
Yeah.
But you're also not doing that either. But talk to me for a little bit because I know that's a pivotal time for all of us, right? Like, I don't know if you're like me in high school, like you've had like 52 different career changes in your head. You're like, I'm gonna do all these things, and then like you meet someone else, you're like, no, I want to do that, and then you see someone good looking, you're like, I want to do whatever they're doing, or like whatever it is. You go from that like, oh, maybe I'm not super good at this, I want to follow that. So like, what went into shaping you during that time?
Wow. So it was really that I needed to do something. So I was living with my grandmother until she got ill. So then I was alone, and I needed to work. And so really, I got into security at college while I went to college. And so I couldn't really do that and be successful at school because it was super difficult. So I found a way to establish a retail division within security. And I started up an account with Carolina Herrera. And what was cool with that was, like I said, I was able to study no problem, set up these accounts, make good money. And one day my team was out, so I had to cover for them at this boutique, and they were going through a renovation. Well, at that time I was going to school for pharmacy, right? So not basketball player, not attorney, but pharmacy. You can tell, like I knew exactly what I wanted. And so I had to lead a renovation, and so the director of retail came to me. She was like, hey, I need you to run this renovation. Can you do it? I said, no problem. I did it, we finished the project early, so she was like, hey, I want to hire you. And I'm like, oh, with all due respect, I'm going to school for pharmacy. I'm maybe a pharmacist. She was like, what do they make coming out of college? And I told her, she was like, you have that plus 10% bonus. You start tomorrow.
You should have said millions.
I know.
I made
Hindsight's
50
always
million as a pharmaceutical rep.
I was like, bare, like, stuff, but nevertheless. So that's how I kind of launched my next career, which is pretty cool.
That's crazy. So, as you're saying that, I just want to kind of pause and say, don't believe the hype that you have to have it figured out before you turn that tassel your senior year of high school, right? You know the stats. So many people change majors. So many people don't stay in even not just the same job, but even the same field. And so just to take the pressure off of you, more times than not, kind of like what you were saying, you discover what you're passionate about just because of open opportunities. You did this, you did this, you did this, and God uses all of that as you're making forward. Because you said you're hustling since 11.
Yeah.
So, but you had sports, you had career, you had a major, you had an ultimate career, but you didn't end up with any of that. You ended up kind of in the luxury retail. So where did that take you?
So it's funny because we kind of jumped all around, but there's been one kind of stability there, and that's God.
Yeah.
Growing up with young parents and then no parents, I always had God have his hand over me. And so that, I don't know how many people made it out of where I did. And there is, believe it or not, my cousin's still there. I love him, but he's still in the hood. So it's God's consistency throughout my life has definitely been super prevalent. Sorry.
No,
Question was.
no, you're great. And I want to kind of come back to that too. So I know where it ends up, but the luxury retail stuff really started taking off for you. That was a big deal.
Yeah, so once my wife, shout out to my wife, Maria Hirschman, I love you. So once we found out that she was having my oldest, Melanie, she was like, I'm not living in New York, we're moving to Georgia. And like every good husband, I said, yes, ma'am. And so we came down here, and I was recruited for Burberry. At Herrera, I ran all of the boutiques in the U.S., their operation side. So I got into Burberry, and I made my way up with them, ran that boutique. We had the highest sales per square foot in the company, which is pretty cool.
Dang. That's a bit I don't know how familiar you guys are with Burberry, but not only it's the trench coat company, right? And the very specific plaid. But more than that, it's a really old company, and it's been successful globally over a long period of time, which puts them in rarefied air. As an old guy studying leadership, you run into Burberry all the time in leadership studies, all of the time. It's one of the best companies in their field on the planet, and you're rising to the top of that. You're a part of that.
Yeah. And so from there, I was recruited with Dior. At Dior, that was fun. Flew to Paris 4 times a year. I miss Paris. Can't wait to open it back up. But so did that. I was really top amongst all my peers. I finished second in terms of boutiques in the U.S. And really, I made a market that was thought to be kind of, hey, we already made this decision, to, hey, we're going to open up 3 more stores within the same market, which is really, really cool.
Man, that's crazy. So, all right, now you're back in high school, and you're like, man, I make minimum wage. If I can get a 10-cent raise, I'm going to feel like I did something. And they're looking for different jobs. But in that world, it's reverse, right? It's cutthroat. You don't do your job, you're out, easily replaceable. But if you're doing well, they come for you. You're not out there floating resumes. Walk me through that process of you get opportunities when you're doing well in that field.
Yeah,
and I would imagine it would, sorry to cut you off, but even off-road opportunities, because you're talking very wealthy people, high visible people, celebrities, business people, millionaires, business moguls, all of that. I'm sure that they see you and they're like, hey, come do this thing. And people in the field, hey, come do that same thing, but over here. So just what's that like for you?
I mean, I was recruited by Tesla to run the highest. There's like a group of people called the club. They wanted me to run the third highest club in the U.S. There was, I mean, the recruitment was there. Apple, because Angela Ahrens was a part of Burberry, and she went to Apple.
Hold that mic up.
Sorry. Yeah. So it was, yeah. It's almost like college football. Your favorite. Sorry.
You know, there's 125 teams in college football.
Sorry.
And we're in the top 5 every year.
That's right.
So,
no matter what.
you know who wasn't there? Georgia. So, I'm saying, say something. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry. So it's super highly recruited amongst all, because once you establish a business of that magnitude with that few walk-ins and establish an experience, it's pretty great. And so a lot of people would say, like, there's just something different about you, Mark. Like, there's just, what is it? And granted, I don't really fit the mold of a luxury retail manager, but yet people just look at me like, there's just something super different about you. And I really took pride. I outworked everybody in the building, in the company. Like, that is what I do. And the reason why is because I truly, truly believe that God told us that we should not do the minimum, but give maximum effort, because we're not working for that company, for that manager, but for Him.
So good.
So.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I mean, and that field's it's a very dark space, right? Like, it's not a whole lot of Christians, and the old cliche, light shines brightest in the darkest. But so many of us, when we're in dark spaces, we just hide because it's dark. But you stayed shining, and that took you to a lot of places. We're talking Tesla, Gucci, Saks Fifth Avenue, like the best of the best in that field. But then there was like a fork in the road, and like, all right, so I'm trying to paint a picture for you guys, right? Because he won't say it, but I'll say it. Like, he's where most of you want to go, right? Top of your field, in a fun field that has opportunities for fame and fortune, hanging with celebrities, flying to Paris. But behind the scenes, like, legit was like, he's like, bro, I gotta go to Paris again. Because it's time away from family. It was the have to of it. And behind the glitz and the glam, like, there's a lot of hard work, there's a lot of sacrifice, there's a lot of things that aren't glamorous. So he's at the top of his game and getting recruited to stay at the top of that game to pursue fame and fortune. But you didn't do that. You had an off-ramp. So what did you end up doing? It wasn't Tesla, it wasn't Gucci, it wasn't Saks. None of those things. Where did you end up going?
I started this company called Pure Home. And thank you. And it was definitely the opposite. So wasn't traveling to Paris every 2 months. It was a company built on radon, and now we kind of do restoration. But aside from that, it was this decision that I had to make, because everything I was doing was it was always a tug of war, right? They never understood why I can never work Sunday. They're like, but we have to host an event this Sunday. I'm like, that's fine, but I won't be there. And there was always this tug of war. Remember, to say yes to something means you say no to something else. And so, as a Christian man, I have my faith, I have my family, I have to be a loving husband, a loving dad, and proud to be in the building today. And that was super difficult. This is my second turn here with all of you guys, and in the beginning it was hard, because it's like, all right, I'm leaving at 5 out of Buckhead to get here at 7, and it always felt conflicted. And I'm like, God, I just need you to open up the way and open up a door that only you can, and something that only made sense to you. And I knew it was from him, even though it was crazy when I think about it.
Yes, it's crazy. That's crazy, right? Like, you guys understand this. Like, you started in a field where they laughed at what you were going to pursue. They're like, I'll match that day one plus 10%. And I'd imagine it went up from there with guarantees, travel, again, everything else we talked about. And you launched off into a startup company with no guarantees. Because stats would say, like, how many businesses even last a few years, right? So there's no guarantees.
During COVID.
But, so here's what I want to do. So we're caught up to the story, but there's a few like very specific things from that I want to kind of like rewind and unpack real quick. So the first one is you were starting your career and you took off from Brooklyn. Like you mentioned it, like very common in tougher economic neighborhoods to stay. It's that crab pot phenomenon in a crab boil. Crabs try to crawl out. All the other crabs pull that one crab trying to escape down. It's very hard to escape, but you did. So going all the way back to like when you started taking off while everyone's staying the same, what separates you from everyone else?
I get to say that God is my dad. Like, legit my dad. And I can remember super clear this moment when I had every person that I looked up to fail, right? Because that's what people do, right? I mean, we're humans. And I heard, no, you can't stay here. No, I can't take care of you. No. And I was just alone. And growing up in New York, in Brooklyn, we weren't into football as much, right? We were into baseball and our Knicks, even though I'm a Mets fan. Heartbreak. I still remember the night, I'm laying down and I'm like, I don't know what to do. I know I'm supposed to do something, but I'm alone. And I hear this voice, and he's like, hey, you like football? What's your favorite team? And I'm like, I don't know football. I don't have one. He's like, you want to know mine? He's like, yeah. He's like, the Saints. I start laughing. I'm like, but it was
like God's first interaction with you is a dad joke, like for real.
Yeah. How funny is that?
That's awesome. Yeah.
So that voice would guide me for the rest of my life. That voice provided me comfort when I didn't have a place to stay. That voice provided me comfort when I didn't have a job. That voice provided me comfort when I was working 16 hours and I had another 2 hours left. But I knew that I had to work unto him. And he's like, hey, son, I put you here.
Yeah.
It's time for you to work.
You're living out God's promise, father to the fatherless. You know, like, I know so many of us, even great dads that try hard still have father wounds, and some, like Margaret, like no dad in the picture. And so it's really hard to relate to a heavenly father when you're seeing it through the lens of your dad. But when you encounter the heavenly father, he's able to father us. Like, he instilled discipline, he's instilled hard work. Like, no one modeled that for you. God did that in you. And from an early age, you were on the grind of daily disciplines, day in and day. Like, I'm sure people weren't lining up to kill those chickens, right? Like, I'm sure that wasn't like a high demand, read through the stack of resumes to hire that position, right? Like, it's not glamorous. Like, I'm sure not everyone's willing to fill in when there's a hole. They're gonna be like, that sucks, hope that works out. And they're not gonna take on that extra challenge. There's a lot of people that wouldn't pick up the slack when there's an empty position and take on extra weight. Like, most people wouldn't do that, be like, sorry for whoever has to carry that extra weight. But you did all the hard things for years on years on years. And it kind of reminds me, I was listening to a John Maxwell podcast recently. It was actually John Maxwell on the Craig Rochelle podcast, which if you don't podcast, it was like this generation's GOAT talking to the previous generation's GOAT of leadership, like the gurus of leadership. Is fantastic. But anyway, he told this story of he's doing a book signing, and someone comes up to him and he's like, man, I want to do what you do. I want to travel the world. I want to write books. I want to do leadership talks. And John Maxwell laughs back at the guy. He's like, that's funny. He's like, if you want to do what I do, you got to did what I did. He's like, people see the success, and you're like, I want to do what Mark's doing, but I want to do that tomorrow. That doesn't happen. There's no magic success switch that you turn on. You're where you are as a result of daily disciplines over years. And I'm sure there was years where you didn't know if it was going to work out, or years where it seemed to be going backwards, and there was no light. It was going backwards, and it's all of that wrapped into one that puts you where you are now. Like that, I think that's commendable. I think that's awesome. So that's the first one, is like daily disciplines. There's nothing glamorous to success. I hear that from you when you share your story. Like, I could talk to so many other leaders in the room, so many leadership talks I talk. Like, there was no magical thing of like, one day I learned something that no one else knows, and here's the secret. It's just like, no, I worked hard for a long period of time. I did what very few people are willing to do, and I did it longer and more consistent than anyone else, and that plus time equals success. So here's the other thing is the leap of faith. To go onto that faith journey, because I knew that I've known you for a long time, and for years you were like, I'm not going to do this forever. Someday I want to leave that so I can be in control of my work schedule, so I can spend more time with my family and spend more time doing ministry. We recruited you as a youth leader, and you couldn't, because you know how we expect you to act: available, capable, teachable. You weren't available because you were working. So trade-off. You said yes to that, which meant no to other opportunities. But here you are, you freed that up. So I want to kind of get on the inside of that again, because like, I don't want you guys to miss this. I want you to lean into this, because what's inside of like who you are, like your makeup, the fabric of your being, that, again, we talked about daily disciplines, but like, what was it inside of you that allowed you to make that level of, the world would say risk, the church would say faith journey, but it's crazy. So what separates you as far as that goes?
I don't mean to sound redundant, but it's understanding that God has provided me with opportunities. And like always, we have a choice to make. And as long as we can continue to choose Him, then it's the right path, even though it may not look it at the time. Yeah. And I truly believe that if I serve God through what He's given me, then I'm glorifying Him, and He'll make everything fall into place. I'll put it this way. I never stopped tithing, and yet I've never taken a dip in pay.
Yeah.
My marriage is strong, and I get to be here. Like, I get to be here.
Yeah.
I love my small group kids. Like, I love them. Like, love is deep. And I'm not that person, but I've grown so much as a person, because everything I do, at the center of it, even in my marriage, we agree. We didn't grow up perfectly. We didn't see the perfect people, but we agree that as long as it's biblical, we'll follow it. Right. And once that happens, then you'll see everything fall into place. And sometimes it's not pretty. Right. Sometimes I'm exhausted. I had the worst Wednesday in the world, and yet I show up, I'm faithful, and then all of a sudden you'll start seeing things shift. And it's like, you can call it chance, you can say it was hard work, but it's a little more than that.
Yeah.
It's that God.
I think that's awesome. And you started with, like, I know this sounds redundant, but like I would take out that word redundant and put like consistent. Like, what I've always learned is like the very best leaders are unbelievably predictable. You know what they're going to say because they say it all the time, because they live by principle. So before you had a family, it was still God family. Mm-hmm. When he was working jobs that you have, it was still no on Sundays, right? Let the preacher, you can't go through a whole day without preaching a little bit. He was willing to lose jobs over a Sunday, right? He was willing to lose jobs over a Wednesday. Believe it or not, there's more than one minimum wage job out there in the Hamilton Mill area. Like, there's managers and business owners and leaders in this room, hint, hint, that can get you jobs. They can help you out and that kind of stuff. It goes back to the priorities of back before he had wealth. It was always going to be God, family, And when he's at the top of his game, he's on the side telling me, I can't do this Paris thing forever because it pulls me away from my family too much. It's just not worth it. There's no amount of money worth me being that away from my family that often. This has to end. He was looking for moves. And so instead of taking the more fame and fortune, he chose this can still pay the bills and be more with my family and do the ministry that I'm called to do, and probably happier than ever, right? More fulfilled. So
Absolutely.
you have wealth, and wealth comes in many forms. Like here, I've watched you 7 years, and you're walking into what God has called you, and everyone else would have said, no, keep doing what you're doing, because why would you leave that? So I think that's awesome. So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna spend a little bit of time. Actually, can you give it up for Mark? That's awesome. We're gonna go into a time of discussion groups. So we've been saying this for a bit. We're in the process of not just rebranding, but kind of restructuring a lot of what we do. And so eventually we'll be kind of relaunching small groups in a new way that I'm super excited about. But in the meantime, we're going to kind of do what we used to do at retreats and kind of from time to time kind of shuffle the deck, mix up small groups, do different things to connect you guys with each other in different ways. And so tonight we're going to do it by grade, but I want you guys to kind of discuss some of the stuff that we unpacked from this. So the leaders have the questions. They're prepared to do this, but I want to kind of go over them real quick and speak to them. So here's the first question. What are you doing today that puts you on the path of unleashing your greatness? All caps today. Like, what are you doing today? You want to be a pastor someday? Who are you leading today? You want to be a business leader tomorrow? Are you killing it in your job today? You don't have a job? Are you killing it in your chores at home? What are you doing today that puts you on the path towards success? Because I'm telling you, in your age, the path doesn't look a whole lot different between lazy and successful. Because the lazy people look like they're having more fun because they have more free time, but the successful people are on that grind, and I'm watching all the successful people in the room amening and nodding to that. So what are you doing today that puts you on that path? And if nothing, what can you do today? So that's the first one. Second one, I wrote number one twice. Number two, who or what defines your greatness? Because kind of going back to that story, I know some of the more details, like baseball was because of your uncle. Trying to please your uncle to do that. You had a really cool boss that was kind of in law and accounting, and you're like, maybe I'll pursue that because I like him. Like you spent like these years appeasing someone else, but switch from the approval of man to the approval of God. And so that's a question that every single human has to answer for yourself. Who defines your greatness? And don't give the simple God defines my greatness, because that's the correct answer. Like, who is actively defining your greatness? So let me give you some examples to that. Social media can do that. I love this one-liner. Whoever defines us is our God. So whatever the answer is your God. So you can't say God, because God can be whoever's ruling you. Whoever's defining you, that's your God. So it could be social media. It can be parents. It can be friends. It can even be enemies. It can be pain. It can be a lot of good things, positive or negative. I'm not discounting the positive influences in your life, but they can't be God. So who or what is defining your greatness? And the third one is this. I hate doing yes and no questions because it kind of limits discussion, but you got to answer this. Do you have a set of values and or priorities? You're not married yet. Is it still God, family, work, everything else? Do you have values? We've got kids. I'm trying to instill values. I'm not talking like things you believe, things you like. Core values that shape the way you approach every day of your life. Almost every morning before our girls go on the bus, what are we about in the Robin family? Be who God created me to be. Be good sisters. Show people the love of God. Yeah, like we've got core values because we're trying to teach our kids to shine bright in the darkness. And those values are going to drive them, and someday they're going to create their own values. So what are your priorities? What are your values? Core values. They're statements. They're these like one or two words. I'm going to be Bible believing. I'm going to be God fearing. I'm going to be humble to all. I'm going to be the greatest servant of all. Like whatever your values are, do you have them? And if so, are those values leading you to unleash God's greatness in your life? Because some of you got values. You're like, my value is to do whatever's easiest in the moment. You've never said that to yourself out loud, but that's a core value. That's a core belief that shapes the way you live your life. My core value is trust no one because everyone hurts me, right? That can be a core value that's not going to lead you to greatness. But some of you believe some lies, and so I really want you to search that, like yes or no. And some of you, I want to encourage you, man, let that negative stuff out. If you're like, man, I do, I've never said it, but it's this. It's like, I've lived my whole life trying to hear I love you from my dad, or like, always trying to get the approval of authority figures or whatever that looks like. So those are the 3 questions. The leaders got them. They'll go over them again. So we're going to split up by grade, and then they're going to split you down smaller so that, again, like in retreat discussion groups, we want to hear from each and every one of you. So let's do freshmen, let's do sophomores, let's do juniors, and let's do seniors, okay? Freshmen, sophomore, juniors, seniors, and we're going to kind of come back up in the end in a while and go on with the rest of the service. Let's do this.
All right, friends, we have about 4.5 minutes left. So start wrapping up your conversations, and then we will gather back in here and have some time of worship together. So start wrapping it up, come back to your seats, and yeah, that's it. I know. I'm the worst. We already did it.
Can you don't have to go back to your original seat if you want. We're gonna spend some time in worship, so if you want to just kind of spread out throughout the building, you guys can. Hopefully, you guys had enough time. If not, I know we love being with each other. Hopefully, you guys had a great chance to connect and kind of share some honest stuff. Man, I'm telling you, I know we kind of leaned in on the practical tonight, but if you grab a hold of these principles, like I promise you guys, setting up for a lifetime of success. And I just want to say this, we're going to go back into a time of worship, and this is going to kind of be like a regular thing where from time to time we'll preach, we're going to have different people up here, from time to time we'll do shorter messages and discussion groups, but we want to make this next kind of moment, we want, these are sacred for us. We would call these like altar call type of moments. Altar because the altar of God, it's where we worship God. It's where we lay down sacrifice. It's where we lay down our pride. It's where we lay down habits and patterns and things like that. We lay them, but altar also means to change. So these are the moments where we make decisions to change, even if we're not moving to the front location. There's a flip in your heart that can happen. And I just want to encourage you guys, as we're going to continue to talk about unleashing greatness inside of you guys. And you heard us lean in pretty heavy on priorities, principles, disciplines. There's not a more available one to practice in your youth than the choice to worship God. Because there's going to be a million opportunities to not feel like worshiping and just enjoy the spectator show. But you want to be great, you choose to worship anyway. When you're tired, you lift your hands anyway. When you're feeling down, you praise God anyway, because it doesn't matter how you feel or what's going on, and I'm not minimizing that. I'm coming out of a very difficult season, but God's promises are still true, and I need to remind myself all the time, and I need to hear my own mouth declaring those truths, because I need my God to hear it, I need the enemy to hear it, I need myself to hear it, that the promises are still true. So come on, like this isn't to pass the time until we end service. This is to end on the right note. So come on, can we just, and I want to say this, I'm a practical coach. I know I'm talking too much. I'm the pastor, right? I have authority. You guys are kings. We talked about authority. I share authority. I've given this team authority. I've given Jeremy, I've given Isaiah. They have authority to lead you in worship. So they're an authority figure. So you got to make that choice. Are you going to allow them to lead you? So these aren't suggestions. Man, when they're saying, man, lift your hands, you're not just doing Simon Says. You're saying they have authority, and their responsibility is to lead us into the presence of God. So if they say raise your hand, I'm doing what they say, because I want to be led into the presence of God. So come on, can we all lift up our hands and just say, God, we love you. We're here to worship you. We're here to give you our best in these next few moments. We worship you, we love you, we honor you in Jesus' name. Come on, let's worship.
can feel it. Come on, something's changing right now in this room. God, change our hearts. Something's changing in the spirit. Something's breaking, I can feel it. Heaven, come down. We want heaven, come down. Something's changing. Something's changing in the spirit. Something's breaking, I can feel it. Heaven, come down. Oh, heaven, come down. Come and have your way. You're all we want. You're all we need. It's nothing compares. You're all we want. You're all we need. Nothing compares. You're all we want, Jesus. You're all we need. Nothing compares to you. Your loving kindness. You're all we want. You're all we need. Nothing compares to you. You're all we want. You're all we need. Nothing compares to you. Your majesty. God, we want to be great, but we don't want to be great by the world's standards. God, we don't want to be great by making ourselves famous, God, by making our name famous, God. We want to be great by making your name famous. We want to be great by your standards. Whether that be being a good son or a good daughter, God, or being a good brother or a husband, or being a great son of God, daughter of God. God, we want to be great in your sight. God, we want you to look at us and smile and say, that's my son, that's my daughter. And the glory and the beautiful part of it is that you're already proud of us. We don't have to prove anything. We don't have to make ourselves great, because you already are proud of us.
God, so if we don't believe that right now, God, if we're still trying to make ourselves great by the world's standards, by our standards, God, would you just break that off of us? God, would you change that? God, we want heaven to come down into this room, God, into us, God, into my heart. God, I want you to come down into this room, God. You're already here, God. We acknowledge your presence. God, and we want more of you. And we just sing, holy, holy, holy are you, God.
Sing holy, 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 are you, Lord Almighty? Holy, 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 are you, Lord Almighty? Holy, 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 are you, Lord Almighty? Holy, 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 are you, Lord Almighty? Holy, 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 you are holy, holy, holy. Holy, 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 are you, Lord Almighty? Holy, 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 holy.
Come on, sing, something's changing right now in the Spirit.
Something's changing in the spirit. Something's breaking, I can feel it. Heaven,
Come on, sing it this time like you believe it. We want heaven to come down right now.
something's changing in this right now. Heaven, come down. We want heaven to come down. Something's changing in the spirit. Something's breaking, I can feel it. Heaven, come. Heaven, come down. Something's changing in the spirit. Something's breaking, I can feel it. Heaven, come down. Come down, something's something's changing in the spirit. Something's breaking, I can feel it. Heaven, come down. Heaven, come down. Something's changing. Something's changing in the spirit. Something's breaking, I can feel it. Heaven, come down. Heaven, come down. Have your way, have your way, we need you to have your way. Something's changing in the spirit. Something's breaking, I can feel it. Heaven, come down. Heaven, come down. Something's changing in the spirit. Something's breaking, I can feel it. Heaven, come down. Come down. Something's breaking, I can feel it. Oh, something's breaking right now, right now. Chains are breaking. Chains are breaking right now. Oh, right now. Something's breaking, I can feel it. Something's breaking right now. Chains are falling off. Shackles are falling off.
don't want to leave this moment yet, because I feel like there are something breaking right now. Whether that's our expectations, our mentalities, something's breaking right now, and I just want us to continue to sing that over our situation, over our lives. Something's breaking. Something's changing right now. We're declaring it. Even if it's hard to believe that it's true, it's happening right now.
Something's changing in the spirit. Something's breaking, I can feel it. Heaven, come down. Heaven, come down. Something's changing in the spirit. Something's breaking, I can feel it. Heaven, every voice. Oh, something's changing in the spirit. Something's breaking, I can feel it. Heaven, come down. Heaven, come down. Something's changing in the spirit. Something's breaking, I can feel it. Heaven, come down. Heaven, oh, something's changing in the spirit. Something's breaking, I can feel it. Come down. One more time. Something's changing in the spirit. Something's breaking, I can feel it. Heaven, come down. Heaven, come down. Come down. Come down. Come down. Come down. Come
There's something that we do as worship leaders whenever we're on a platform. And maybe it's always just look a little bit weird, but I just want to invite you into what I would call just a little bit of next level worship. And what that is sometimes you'll see us close our eyes. And as Pastor Matt said, sometimes you see us lift up our hands. And sometimes you see us literally just pacing, and maybe we're singing a song that isn't what you see on the screen. And what that is I believe that there's something spiritually powerful when we allow ourselves to interact with heaven and interact with our Lord by singing our own personal song and in praying our own personal prayers. And man, it just excites me when I begin to hear that out in the room. Like as Isaiah is just kind of singing what we'd say prophetically. He's just singing from his heart, singing from his spirit. When we join in that, there's something different that does really change the atmosphere in the room. And so I just want to give us an opportunity just for a moment to invite you into that, because I know that we're singing something's changing in the spirit. And that's what we call prophetic. It means there's truth to it. And as we're singing that, I was just getting this image. Just kind of like in the Bible, there's a story of, I think it's Paul and Silas. They're in a prison cell and they begin singing and they're praising, and walls come down and their prison doors are open and they're free to walk out. And I see that over this room. I see a lot of us sitting in a prison cell. And I want to let you know that the Lord is saying tonight that praise is your breakthrough. When you open up your own voice and get off of the screen and get off the words that we're singing right here and just begin to pray out and cry out from your own heart to interact with God, that's where breakthrough happens. That's when there's truth, when something is really changing and something is really breaking. I just want to invite you into that. I want to invite you into praying a little bit harder and singing a little bit louder, and not just the words. No, we're not singing Christian karaoke, or it's not Simon Says, but there's something really real that happens in a moment when we break the script and when we just sing our own song. And I believe that God wants to set us free tonight. And so Matt's up, he's going to say some words, but we're not going to be fully done. I believe that God is doing something in this moment, and we're going to interact with that.
We've had so many conversations about moments like this where we're like, oh man, yeah, you just gotta know the inner turmoil of a pastor in moments like this. And so I want to respect you and what God's doing, and I want to respect your parents. And so here's what we're doing. It's just a time check. We're a little past the time where you'd normally be dismissed. But I know a lot of you can totally stay, and we're here for it, because I think God's doing something really special in this place. But I don't want to do that at the sake of causing an argument right after church. You know what I'm talking about? So if you need to text your parents and be like, hey, can I stay 15 more minutes and worship? I don't think most of your rides are going to mind that text message from you. I'm just going to say that. But if you need to communicate that, communicate that. If you got to leave, totally cool, just slip out. And I also wanted to do this. I totally forgot to earlier. Leadership is something that you can study. When I was in your spot, I disqualified myself because I didn't see myself as a leader. There are definitely natural-born leaders, but for most people, it's learned and it's developed over a long period of time. And I want to teach you at a young age to do tough things. So if you're studying leadership, this guy, John Maxwell, he's literally the worldwide guru. He is also a devoted Christ follower. I'm not exaggerating. He's the #1 guy. It's on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, he's the #1 guy on leadership on the planet. He happens to be our founding pastor's personal mentor. I was at a leadership gathering with him. He was bragging all over Johnson and Summer, super excited and super invested in what God's doing at Victory. And his leadership stuff is gold. This is one of his first books that he wrote. I think he's written 86 books. It's called Developing the Leader Within You. Again, it's that building the leadership in you. And so I've got 3 copies, and I'm not gonna go like youth group Buck Wild Scream if you want it. I'm gonna place them on the front row. And if you feel like it's got some conditions, so I'm gonna raise the bar. I want you to read it, and I want you to report back to me what you learned, because leaders do tough stuff, okay? So it's not just a gift that you're never gonna read, okay? I want you to just think about it in the next few moments. It'll be over there. I'm not gonna be like, you sure you want it? Nah, if God's telling you, pursue this, and if you miss out and you're like dead set on, man, I missed it, are there any left? I got you. I will invest into your leadership. So I'll be over here. If you can stay, stay. If you gotta go, go. If you need to communicate. But we're gonna continue to worship in this place. Is that cool? All right, come on, let's go.
There's power in your name, Jesus. There's power in your name, Jesus. There's power in your name, Jesus. Oh, there's power in your name, Jesus. We believe there's power in your name, Jesus. There's power in your name, Jesus. Your name is power. There's power in your name, Jesus. There's power in your name, Jesus. So we sing your name. We sing your name, Jesus, Jesus. Jesus, Jesus. Jesus, Jesus. Your name is power. Jesus, Jesus. Jesus, Jesus. Jesus, Jesus. Your name.
Come on, there's power in that name.
Jesus, Jesus. Jesus, Jesus. Jesus, Jesus. Oh, your name is power. Jesus, Jesus. Oh, Jesus, Jesus. Jesus, Jesus. Your name is, oh, your name. Jesus, Jesus. Jesus, Jesus. Jesus, Jesus. Oh, your name is power. Jesus, Jesus. Jesus, Jesus. Jesus, Jesus. everything. Oh Jesus, we sing your name, Jesus. You change everything. Oh Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. Oh Jesus, you change everything. You come in, change every heart. When all we want is all you are. God, you come in, change every heart. When all we want is all you are. God, you come in, change every heart. When all we want is all you are. God, you come in, you change every heart. When all we want is all you are. God, you come in, change every heart. When all we want is all you are. God, you come in, change every heart. When all we want is all you are. God, you come in, change every heart. You change everything. You change everything. You change everything. You're all we want. You're all we're after. To know you, to love you, to worship forever. To know you, to love you, to worship forever. To know you, to love you, to worship forever, to know you, to love you, to worship forever. I'll just be quiet, let you speak through the silence. Here I am, no more hiding. I'll be quiet, I'll be quiet, I'll just be quiet. Let you speak to my silence. Here I am, no more hiding. You are in this moment, I won't fight it. Lord, I'll be quiet, I'll be quiet. Let you speak through the silence. Here I am, no more hiding. You are in this moment, I won't fight.